This is a heliograph, the first known communications device for capturing the sun and using revised Morse code to deliver messages from mountaintop to mountaintop by going longs and shorts. Good communications if the sun is out. And this was before the years of the telephone. And the Forest Service had these to communicate from mountaintop to mountaintop. So they went to eventually to a telephone system. And this is the switchboard from a fire dispatch desk on the Kootenai National Forest in Montana. And on this one we have, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We lost a bell there, but six switches, 6 lines coming in. And here's another one that's got 4. So the switchboard operator, just similar like Ma Bell used to do, only a very small scale between lookouts and the ranger station. Of course, the old oak phone, the wall phone, hand crank wall phone, talk into here, listen on this. When I was growing up, this is what we had in my house. And the phone lines coming in, the wire, number 2 or number 9 wire. This was number 9 wire. Threaded through these insulators that are hooked to a tree with a staple. And when the wire goes through here, it's loose between each tree. When a tree falls across the phone line, it just stretches that wire over a span of maybe a half, 3/4 of a mile, and it doesn't break. It just falls to the ground with the tree, and you saw the tree off, and the wire springs back the way it was before. It's a perfect setup for a phone line in the woods. And that's how the phone system was for over 60,000 miles in the woods. And that was the 1920s. Well, then in 1935, they invented the SPF radio. And SPF meant semi-portable phone. And by semi-portable meant that the radio itself is light enough, but to put it on a lookout, it took 200 pounds of batteries like these up here to get you through the summer. So it was hardly a portable radio. For lookouts, it was a good radio. Portables got heavier, but that's with batteries, so it actually got smaller. And then you had an antenna that you had to hoist way up like this. And that was portable that could be used on fires. These were portables that required a long wire stretched up in a tree. This was a higher frequency, or rather a lower frequency, down around the 3 megahertz. They got a little more modern with a battery pack. And then they got smaller. This was invented at a radio shop in Olympia by my father in 1944. And they threw an antenna up in a tree, and you talked on the speaker. Very simple to operate. Momentary switch to talk. And then they went commercial and had them built down in Salem, Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And then came the more modern Motorola portables that were in lookouts. A really good radio, because you could just jerk and run this one when it went up into the VHF range. You could take it down to the outhouse with you. You could take it for a hike with you. You always had your radio. And then they got smaller and smaller and smaller until now, of course. This does it all now. That's the radio business. Well, then there were the mobile radios that started in the 1940s, and base stations that started in the 1930s. And so on with the radios. Field phones out in the woods used to look somewhat like this. These are bear proof.
Oh my goodness, that's a cool one.
It still works. Not too good, but it still works. The one-wire telephone system. This is what was strapped to the catwalk, or the railing of the lookout. And then it went up 25 feet with the wire antenna. We get a lot of visitors to the Lookout Museum that have never been to a lookout before, and we try to educate them a little bit on the origin of lookouts. Well, in the very beginning, they just would go to a mountaintop and build a little crow's nest up in a tree on top of it, and set up a tent, or if they were lucky, they had a nice little cabin. But in any event, they always had a telephone. And in the early years, it was just a field phone. A one-wire telephone, one wire stringing through the woods for 64,000 miles through the woods of America to connect all the lookouts and their ranger stations. So in the early years we had a telephone, and we had a likely tree, and at the very top of the tree you'll see the crow's nest. You gotta get up there with some sort of a ladder, so they created however they could. And that was the beginning of lookouts in the 1910 era. A lot of crow's nests were developed later on up into the 30s to cover areas that you couldn't see from the lookout.